The internet is not half, but completely full of diet information, of
Eat that, not this. Or eat this, not that.
Or actually eat this. This is healthy.
do this for your gut microbiome, do this for your inflammation, take these supplements. And it's all scientifically backed. But let me cut through all of this noise in order to give you a simpler guide to the most popular diets for white European young men. You'll see why the specificity is important later. It's always easier to start out with what not to eat, and that is quite an easy step for us to take. It is junk food and hyper-palatable foods, like rancid vegetable oils, and sugars, and to some extent artificial sweeteners. Everybody knows this, but we don't know the extent. This is why we have these statistics. It is basically self-harm to consume high-fat, high-carb particular diets, or basically the Western diet. Aren't your arteries already clogged by looking at this? This food has been specifically engineered and manufactured in order for it to be addictive, hitting a particular sweet spot of salt, sugar, carbohydrates and fats in order to hook us on weird chemicals that we do not know about. And that is from poisonous food colorings to rancid vegetable oils in our food and chemical compounds that are beyond our understanding. The principle here is simple when it comes to cutting out food for an elimination diet. If the ingredient list looks like this, you should not eat that. That would be silly for you. Call this a self-harm product, for it causes inflammation, brain fog, it damages the gut and makes it permeable, leading to leaky gut syndrome. I'll talk more about that later. You could call it a self-harm product because it kind of is that. It leads to heart disease and mental health disorders as well. So if you're feeling like a dumbass, blame your diet to some extent. You are basically waging a war against yourself if you're consuming this particular diet, and it doesn't even matter how young you are. I know I have consumed such bullshit, and I have suffered the consequences of it, not just from looking like a circle, but my brain. It was fogged during that period, okay? These frozen, pre-packaged junk food products are causing us much bad. I don't know how else to describe it. And as I said, it's basically self-harm. But this is just the easy part. Knowing what we should eliminate is a really simple part of this, of nutrition. It is a lot easier than telling you what to eat. I will go into that as well. But let's get some basics out of the way. There are 3 macronutrient groups: the carbohydrates, the fats, and the proteins. These are very important in order for us to understand diet and their effects on our health. There are also very many, and I mean very many, micronutrients. Some of them are supplementary, but a lot of them are absolutely essential to human functioning. There are essential nutrients and non-essential ones. Like carbohydrates, for example. There are no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, but there are essential amino acids and essential fatty acids, or fats. Despite what some people might say, we don't actually need to eat carbs, but they might provide some benefits here and there. Despite what they might say, we don't actually need carbs, but most likely you are addicted to them. Diet is a political landscape, to think of it like that. Every single organization out there has its diet political biases, so approach it with caution. Food has been a majorly political issue throughout the years, as based on the statistics and the lobbying efforts. What we put into our body is not just a political issue, but also a deeply emotional and psychological issue. It is not just a combination of macronutrient content and micronutrients, but also culture, religion, ethics, emotion, as well as environmental backlog. And there are many other important factors when considering a diet change. So just be aware of these factors in order to not be reductionistic when it comes to our approach to it. Changing our diet is changing who we are, because we are what we eat, and it is true in a deep genetical sense. It's not just an idiom or an aphorism. it has an actual basis in genetics to say that we are what we eat, because the food that we eat changes our genetic makeup. And that is why you might guess that there are many personality differences when it comes to different diets out there, and there are stereotypes for the different diets that are out there. But let's get into the most popular diets that are out there on the internet that you most likely have heard of, and look at their pros and cons in order to weigh them for our life. I await the comments on this one, because we're getting political here. The Mediterranean and DASH diets are generally recognized as healthy. Scientifically, they have been shown to be. And it's very simple. It's very wide in its array of foods, specifically fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Also a limiting of saturated fats. It is truly just a mid diet. Like, if you want to get healthy, generally, it's pretty good. Some of the cons include that it's truly just very middling. It's not very optimized for anything. If you're South European and live in that area, then your genetic makeup is for that diet specifically. So if your ancestry is Mediterranean, it's recommended for you. It is truly nothing in particular. It's a good starting out point for anybody getting into the whole diet issue. It's just really simple to get on it because it cuts out junk food. And any diet that cuts out junk food is healthier than a diet that doesn't do that. So when it comes to healthy diets, we are comparing against this amalgam of self-harm products. So consider that as well. Consider this information when it comes to any diet. We are comparing against this. The Mediterranean diet is a combination of nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, pastas, and all that. It's pretty good. It's pretty tasty, but it might be expensive. I tried it for a while. It's a good starting out point, especially for those who are bread addicted. Consider that. Don't be surprised about the great list of diets that are out there that are deemed supposedly healthy. And that is because there is a wide net for what could be considered healthy, especially because of your genetic profiles and gut microbiomes, which are unique unto every single person out there. The next diet is the one that is the craze of all the big major organizations out there, which are the vegan and the vegetarian diets. They are all the craze right now, with health nuts claiming that it will make them live until 160, and people being ethically and religiously attached to this particular diet. And lots of people are pushing for it because of its environmental and health reasons. It's not a healthy diet. That is my hot take here. It is for environmental and religious reasons mostly, rather than health reasons when you think about it. They are obviously a lot healthier than self-harm. It's not healthier than most other diets out there, and it's really hard to make it work. You basically need a team of nutritionists in order for you to make this diet work, because of the wide variety of fruits and vegetables and nuts that you need to eat in order to get all the essential amino acids and the essential fatty acids that are out there. There are some that you just absolutely cannot get on this particular diet, so you absolutely have to supplement for that. I would consider this diet harmful for younger people who need a lot more calcium and iron, because it's a surprisingly not bioavailable diet. Plant sources of basically every micronutrient and macronutrient out there are notoriously less bioavailable. So a lot of the risks outweigh its benefits. A large portion of people quit this diet really quickly. This is not really an argument against it, but you know what I mean. The list of essential nutrients that you just cannot get on this diet is a long list. And that is from iron to vitamin B12 and K2, and omega-3 is also harder to get on this diet. Unless you eat like algae and spirulina or corallina or whatever supplements and fortified foods that the vegans now be trying to do. Plus, this diet doesn't even make sense in an evolutionary basis. There are basically no places anywhere in the world where you could get all the essential amino acids from plant sources alone. there are many deficiencies that are associated with that diet. Protein is also less bioavailable on this particular diet. You can make it work. I'm not saying that it is an absolutely impossible task, because there are a lot of people who work really hard to make this diet work for them. But they need to have basically a team of nutritionists in order for them to survive healthily. Which was the exact same case with the athletes in that one particular vegan propaganda documentary film that most people know this particular diet from. And its health benefits. Again, health benefits compared to this. I'm going against the mainstream here and proclaim the unhealthiness of this particular diet. Not because it's impossible to make work, it's just harder than the next two, and even the Mediterranean diet. Plant-based diets suck. Hot take here. But another diet that is all the craze right now is the keto diet. I would say for a better reason than the previous one. It has been shown to decrease many mental health disorders like borderline personality disorder and schizophrenia. It helps in symptom reduction of those particular disorders. Like it might be a potential anaphylactic diet against cancer. Anaphylactic just meaning it slows it. As well as potentially for the ketogenic diet there are many benefits for the heart health and for hormone health as well, because of its effects on cholesterol, surprisingly as well. The keto diet is a reduction of carbohydrates to 20 grams to 50 grams per day. This is a graph to understand the net carbs. Basically it means carbohydrate content minus the fiber in any particular foods. On this diet, animal-based foods dominate, but not only. There are vegetables and fruits even, mostly seeds, that are eaten specifically for this diet. But again as well, if it is not the Western diet, it is better, especially if we consume the healthy fats on this particular diet. It minimizes the fruit consumption and maximizes the fat consumption, which might seem unhealthy, but we are doing a U-turn on saturated fats and MUFAs and PUFAs, fats generally. The science is progressing towards this direction for understanding the ketogenic diet. Many of the benefits are because of its effects on ketosis, the way of production of ketones in our body, which is the way that we burn fat for brain function. It might help in weight loss as well. It is the same pathway, or a similar pathway, that we activate by intermittent fasting and fasting generally. There is more and more evidence about the efficacy of this particular diet. And it is recommended for people of Northern European, Eastern European, Western European, and Central European ancestry. And that is mostly because of its genetic basis in that. This is why I talked about white young men from Europe in the beginning. A ketogenic diet might be the most optimal for you because of this, because of your specific genetic makeup and your ability to metabolize fats and the like. But you might have a specific genetic condition that prevents you from effectively metabolizing fat, in which case a ketogenic diet might not be the best, and actually a vegetarian or vegan diet might be better. I would still say that the essential nutrients are still a major factor for the unhealthiness of the plant-based diet as well though. Cons for this diet could be the keto flu, which is a feeling of weakness and nausea and brain fog when we are getting rid of carbohydrate consumption. I consider it carbohydrate withdrawal because it disappears after a couple weeks. It's not something that remains, but this feeling might last longer for others. We can help the transition by consuming adequate amount of water and electrolytes, as well as eating a variety in this diet as well. It also depends very much on your genetic makeup and what your ancestors ate. But if we're talking about ancestors, we cannot forget the paleo and the carnivore diets. You could consider it the other side of the aisle when it comes to the politics of diet. It is animal products only. It's really simple. It's a really simple diet. And there are so many people attacking it from religious and also health basics. But talking about this and keto generally as well, the issue of fiber has been raised, because fiber is very important and has been shown to be increasing our longevity and the health of our microbiome, a collection of fungi and germs and a wide variety of organisms which reside on our skin, in our gut, and across the body. It has basically a brain of its own, and the nourishment of it has been shown to be extremely beneficial for our immune system and for our mental health as well. So no discussion of diet could be complete without talking about the gut microbiome. And the immediate response to the keto diet is, because of its lack of fiber in it, won't you get constipation and won't your microbiome die out? I will address this problem later. But in short, not really. There are still very many fermented foods on this particular diet, like kefir, yogurt, and sour cream that could be eaten. And the very important thing to mention right here is that we barely know anything about the microbiome. We don't know what an ideal microbiome looks like. Science is still in its infancy when it comes to studying the microbiome. But if microbial diversity is your metric of health, then keto and carnivore diet people don't seem to have a problem with microbial diversity. Of course, we can minimize a lot of the negative effects of plants and their plant toxins, some of which you might be more allergic to than others, depending on your genetic type again. This could be histamine or oxalate sensitivity that you have. We can minimize its effects by fermenting, cooking, and soaking, but they still might be poisonous for you, again, depending on your genetic type. Most of the pesticides that we consume are natural in their origin, and that might be one of the reasons for many gut irritations and many health problems as well.
But what about hormesis?
Would be the response to this, or the pathway that leads to the increasing of our immunity by subjecting ourselves to decreased amounts of poison. We don't know. That is the exact problem with plants and hormesis. We don't know the exact mechanisms of hormesis and how it works for our body. Plus, you don't really need vegetables for that. There are many other ways that we can subject ourselves to hormesis, like exercising, physical exercising, cold thermogenesis, and heat exposure in saunas and the like. So it isn't necessary for the growth of our immune function and longevity. And also eating nose to tail when it comes to the carnivore diet. A very important aspect. Not just the muscle of the animals themselves, but eating their organs as well. And that is for the gut microbiome as well. Organ meats, very nutrient dense for this particular reason. But then there are the other what-abouts when it comes to the carnivore diet, which I will do a quick round in text explanations.
What about micronutrient deficiencies?
How about
Inflammation. Red meat bad because it causes cancer, and the WHO said so. What about vitamin C deficiencies? What about heme iron causing cancer?
what about the Japanese study about protein and longevity? What about electrolyte deficiencies? What about the gut microbiome? What about your cholesterol, triglyceride levels? What about your heart disease? What about your longevity? Plants cause you to live longer. What about killing the planet with your beef eating habits and your carbon footprint? What about animal welfare? And my favorite objection is the blue zones objection, which I would like to go into deeper detail because it tells you specifically about what diets are the best for human consumption in a variety of places. Blue zones are places where people live for a long time and they have particular habits, especially their dietetic habits. First to mention is that longevity is not just based on the diet factor. There are very many factors when it comes to it, especially genetics and homogeneity. All of the blue zones are homogeneous communities. But then let's go to the specifics. Okinawa, the most famous of the blue zones, apart from its ikigai and healthy communities, is also known as the Pork Island. None of the centenarians who lived to be above 100 were vegetarians. They mostly ate plants, but they also ate a lot of pork as well, as the island is generally known for that. For Loma Linda, California, it is generally true. They are vegetarians and vegans, most of them, but those who lived to be the oldest among them, they weren't vegetarians. They also ate fish and meat. The Costa Ricans in Nicoya ate a lot of dairy. It's one of the easiest examples to bring up. And they also had meat in their diet. The Greeks at Icarius also a lot of fat they ate as well. A lot of animal fat as well. And the Italians as well. They ate a lot of fish as well. Fish are specifically very nutrient dense. We cannot ignore them because we want to fit into a neat agenda of saturated fats and vegan diets. But I would like to raise another example against this. Hong Kong. Despite being an overcrowded city under foreign occupation, it has an average life expectancy higher than that of Japan, and they eat a lot of meat, specifically red meat as well. Plus, again, evolutionarily speaking, fatty meat has most likely been a greater source for our calories when it comes to our survival of the cold ages, as well as generally. Everywhere where we appeared as humans and cavemen, the mammoths started dying out. Quite an interesting correlation. I don't know about you. Tell me how we could survive this era with tubers and berries, and I eat my pants. These people living through this era probably didn't eat the rainbow. Biologically speaking, our stomach acid looks more similarly to vultures than to any herbivores that are out there. I have to emphasize that. We humans are opportunistic. We eat whatever we can, and that meant that we ate a lot of poison as well during our long history on this planet. We are made to be eating a lot of saturated fat, especially us Europeans. We seem to be specifically made for a lot of saturated fat. This might also be true to some extent to South Europeans. But again, it depends on what your ancestors ate and what your genetic makeup dictates. It is a very politically incorrect approach to diet, but race dictates your optimal diet, and it does that to a large extent because of the genetics that you were endowed with. This is an emerging field in nutrigenomics, the way that our genome dictates the optimal diet for all of us. And combined with recent AI optimizations in personal medicine, we can optimize our diets to a great extent nowadays with the combination of genetic testing and AI data optimization. This is a very interesting field to get into, by the way. The genetic tests might tell us exactly what supplements we need to take in order for us to optimize our health. And for us specifically, not just for humans generally. Because we all have a certain biochemical individuality to all of us. This biochemical individuality does not negate what I just said in the previous 15 minutes or so. The essential fatty acids and the essential amino acids, as well as the micronutrients that we all need to take, are all the same for all of us. Just some people need to eat more of particular micronutrients and essential fatty acids and essential amino acids, and some people need to eat less of them, but they are all still essential for all of us. Plus, this also doesn't mean that our genes are set in stone either. Our genes and our diet work in a cyclical relationship. Our diet influences our genes, and our genes influence our diet. It isn't a one-way street. We can also get rid of particular food insensitivities by certain exposure therapies, like for example peanut allergies and dairy intolerances. We can also get rid of by specific targeted supplementation and exposure therapies. This does not mean that the carnivore diet or the keto diet is unhealthy because of biochemical individuality. Some people just need to eat less dairy or less eggs or more fish or less steak on those particular diets. Just like with the vegan diet could still work with specific supplementation and specific targeted dietary habits. The idea of biochemical individuality doesn't invalidate the idea of diets and purposeful diets out there. For which diet is best for you out there, there is no one size fits all. There is no such thing as a one size fits all diet. And that's why a lot of these diets that are out there could be deemed healthy just for certain peoples. Carbs, for example, could be maximized for other people who have particular genes for them. Or fats could be maximized for other people who have the particular genes for them. There isn't a one size fits all nutritional recommendation out there. For different purposes, for bodybuilders, there's going to be a different diet than for sedentary people. The brain is less of a concern when it comes to bodybuilders, so more carbs could be maximized. For particular mental health conditions and heart health and possibly cancer again, a ketogenic diet, it can prevent the spread of cancer, possibly again, or increase heart health by increasing cholesterol intake. For leaky gut syndrome and any particular conditions of the gut, particular gut fixing and detoxing diets could be the ones that work for you. Because of this reason, because of genetic and microbial individuality, there is no one size fits all diet out there, and I have to emphasize this point. There are no diets out there that can solve all your problems at once. The ketogenic diet and the carnivore diet might be the closest ones to that, but still, there's much to be learned about nutrition science. It's really hard to study nutrition in humans as well because of the interaction between the different foods that we eat, because it matters to a large extent. So, actionably, what to walk away from this is to check your genetic individuality by taking a Dutch test, or a self-decode test, or a 23andMe test. These are all genetic tests in order to get some genetic information about your ideal diet. There are also tests that we could do for our microbiome, or we could also check and get a blood test with our doctor. It is also a very important thing that we do not change our diets drastically before we consult with our physician. That is just my recommendation out there. But the best method simply out there is to just experiment with it. Experiment with an elimination diet protocol. And experiment with an elimination diet protocol and just mindfully eat the food that you are already eating. Spotting the reactions that you have to the food itself and how your body feels afterwards. Do this on a 24 to 72 hour basis. Cut out certain foods and eat some others, and mindfully observe how your body feels after cutting out certain foods, or how it reacts to certain foods, or how it reacts to others. Do not be afraid to experiment with this. This is one of the best and the most reliable experiments that we can have for this. Just experiment. I did. I was eating a Mediterranean diet, and then basically I became a fruitarian. And I also ate keto and carnivore diets. I see their effects on my brain and my weight. I'm currently on a ketogenic diet. So that is my bias here that I'm declaring to you. But again, the most important part of it is your purpose for it. The easiest way to improve your diet is to just get to the root of what you want to achieve with it. It might be even better than self-quantification of everything. I recommend a conjunction of both mindfully eating and quantifying what you have by genetic tests, if you may. All of these are very good options in order for you to improve your diet and health generally for a more purposeful life. But it does truly depend on your own individual purpose, which I cannot give blanket recommendations for, but about which we talk about more in our self-improvement school community, the Purpose School, which you can join by clicking on the top link in the description. It is an elite gang of purposeful young men. Click and watch the video on the screen, and remember to waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be, and just be one.